It is time. Welcome to today's webinar on Hope versus Hype with Agentic AI, brought to you by CCW Digital and Cyara. I'm Brian Cantor, Principal Analyst for CCW, and your host for today's discussion. You can't spend 10 seconds in a customer contact conversation without touching on the impact of AI. But this is not simply empty trend chasing. It's not our love for buzzwords. This emphasis is out of necessity. Today's customers are demanding more than ever, and unfortunately, they're receiving less than ever. They're expecting better, more personalized resolutions in their channel of choice, and yet they feel like experiences are headed in the wrong direction. 59% report a regression in CX this year, with many citing things like inconvenience and impersonalization, and a general lack of empathy as they work with brands. Now, AI theoretically represents a way to solve this problem. It allows us to bring intelligent, contextual automation to the areas that need it most. This not only lets us scale personalized resolutions, but it also frees our human agents to be in better position to make their own contribution to a stellar customer journey. But unfortunately, many past AI deployments have not lived up to the hype, and it shows to our customers. A staggering 70% of customers feel that AI has not yet helped the experience, and 50% of companies actually feel like their CX AI investments are progressing more slowly than they expected. Now, do not take this the wrong way. This is not a knock on the very idea of AI. It's not saying that the AI transformation is inherently overhyped. What it concerns is that the type of AI tech we've been pursuing and the way we've been pursuing it needs to change. And in this webinar, we're going to reveal that different approach, one that not only takes advantage of the legitimate transformative power of agentic AI, but also recognizes the strategies and frameworks and risk management that's required for success. Now, to get there, I'm thrilled to introduce our speakers. So we have Rishi and Christoph here. I'm going to give you each a chance to talk about your background, what Cyara does, and why this topic is so essential right now.
Thank you, Brian, for the introduction. And look, I wish I had the energy you have, and I'll try to bring that up. But thank you again for the lovely introduction. I'm Rishi Rana. I'm CEO for Cyara, and I have with me Christoph. Christoph, maybe you can speak a few words, and we can talk about Cyara a little bit.
Yes, sure. Hi, Brian. Thanks, Rishi, for passing the ball over. First of all, Brian, thanks for having us. It's great to be with you again and talk about this thrilling topic. My name is Christoph Brenner. I'm VP of Engineering at Cyara, and I'm also in charge of our AI strategy. My background, as you touch based on it, Brian, is I'm a former founder of a product called Botium that became, back in 2022, part of the Cyara family and is now our AI optimization engine. And of course, we are dealing now literally every day with the challenges of agentic AI, and therefore I think Rishi and myself are the right ones to talk about this.
Yeah, and picking up from that, Christoph is not only our AI leader for Cyara, charting the strategy, also executing on what is our AI trust as our product. But look, I think Cyara first. I think we provide what is an AI-powered platform for continuous testing and monitoring across all digital customer experiences. Think of voice, chat, web, and the emerging AI channels. As enterprises, and as Brian, you were talking about, adopt more of the complex CX stacks, from legacy to the large learning models, powered AI agents, and agentic AI. Cyara assures that every customer journey works as intended, performs at scale as well, and it delivers those measurable outcomes.
Yeah, and I think that's always fundamentally important. We talk about things like outside-in design. You have to know what your customers are going through. And that's been one of those inherently overlooked aspects of the customer experience for so long. But I think it becomes even more high stakes when you talk about AI, right? Because this is an area where it is new. It is still somewhat uncertain exactly how it's going to transform certain journeys. And so if we're not calibrating everything, not based on what some vendor tells us, but instead based on what our customers, what our users are actually going through, we're not going to maximize that transformation. So I think refreshing approach, definitely a welcome solution, and certainly one that's going to allow us to walk through the impact of agentic AI in a productive fashion. So I can't wait to dive into that discussion. Now, as a reminder for those of you who joined us, today's session is being recorded. And you can ask questions at any time using the console on your screen. We have a lot to get through. I can't guarantee we'll get to every question, but I do know that anything we don't get to, our speakers will be thrilled to answer afterwards. So I want to start by just setting the stage here. And, the reality is that, as I sort of alluded to with some of the stats I shared, for all the talk about this transformative impact of AI, we know that it hasn't necessarily been about taking action on the front lines. It hasn't really been fully absorbing that dreaded and simple and monotonous work we always talk about. And there's a few reasons for that, right? And a few signs that this is happening. Only 15% of customers actually trust chatbots right now, a number that's actually down from 17% in 2024 and down from 20% in 2023. So even as AI becomes more of a household concept and more familiar, we're actually seeing a little bit of a regression in customer trust. And if that happens, that obviously means customers are bypassing AI, looking for agent support, which is why 90% still expect access to a live agent, and why 70% of contact center leaders say that their agents are still spending too much time on low value work. And more importantly, too much time on the knowledge lookups, the data lookups, accessing the tools required to handle that low value work. And so again, you have a lot of inefficiency, you have a lot of inconvenience, you have a lot of friction, and this is why you have stats showing that so few customers are celebrating the impact of AI. You have so many issues where 9 in 10 contact centers still feel like they're facing enormous cost pressure because they're not getting these benefits that they were looking for. Now, if AI is simply doing some combination of following rigid rules and dumping generic data, it's not operating with the kind of autonomy we need to overcome these challenges. Now, we want more autonomy, right? 90% of contact center of people are judging their contact center success based on their reduction in inbound calls. And 82% expect their agents to pivot to more complex work. So ultimately what that's saying is today's contact center leaders, they do want AI that can be more autonomous, that can actually handle and resolve more tasks. But as we think about that, there's going to be some challenges, right? We know that we have to be able to trust AI to actually operate autonomously. Can it actually handle interactions the way we want, the way our customers want on its own? Or if not, what kind of oversight is required? And ultimately, we know that agentic AI is meant to say yes. That's how the technology is sold. That's what it represents. It's how it's developed. But we also know that just because the technology can do it doesn't mean that every instance of this technology has the right guardrails in place, is realistic, is practical, is going to do what we want it to do. And so I want to start there with our speakers. So if they can share, what does agentic AI mean in practice for CX leaders as we think about creating a more autonomous, more intelligently automated CX?
No, I think very well said, Brian, and you brought up some problems that we all are seeing in the market. Look, I think agentic AI is there to solve the problems, but it is also creating a set of items that we need to actually take care of. Right? I personally and Christoph together, again, from agentic AI is the next major inflection point in customer experience. Full stop. I mean, this is not just about chatbots or automation of scripts. We're talking about systems that can make decisions and act towards a goal in an autonomous manner without requiring those step-by-step prompts. Now, in the CX world or the customer experience world, this means AI agents that can resolve tickets, trigger workflows, or even proactively troubleshoot customer issues without needing that human escalation. Now, this changes the game. And this is exactly, Brian, what you were talking about and the stats that you provided as to why the leaders want to go that route, but the customers are not feeling that response and they want to talk to the human agent. So from a reactive automation to a proactive goal-driven resolution, which is now another stat, at least that comes to my mind, and you shared a fair amount, and that's actually very, very enlightening. Gartner recently predicted that by 2029, 80% of the customer service issues could be resolved in an autonomous manner. And yet, when you look around, and as you rightly pointed out, Brian, most organizations are still struggling to even get the basics of that service right. This is not the shortage, I believe, of ambition, but it's an execution gap. And that's where, from a Cyara perspective, we are uniquely positioned. We sit on top of any contact center, help desk, CRM tools, where we are looking at it from an agnostic perspective. And we are helping enterprises move from intent to impact, validating, assuring those AI-powered experiences with confidence, scale, and trust. Look, I think we don't just test and monitor in the flow how it works. We test if we understand it, adapt it, and achieve that desired outcome. I think, Christoph, maybe you might want to add some few things to it. I think that's what I feel.
Yeah, sure. You covered already a lot, Rishi. And maybe after you gave a perfect explanation for what agentic AI is, I come from the other side and start with what agentic AI is not. So it's not just smarter chatbot. And despite all the hype, Brian, that we see as Cyara in the CX domain at the moment, just rebranding old virtual assistants or chatbots as so-called AI agents doesn't really deliver the benefits. On the other side, as Rishi said, true agentic AI is a game changer for CX and its leaders. To name it, by enabling automation and self-service that goes far beyond the scripted journeys that we have seen in the past. And these systems can take action on their own, adapt on the fly, and operate at the end of the day completely independently. That's super cool as an engineer, but there's of course also a downside. This new technology, or Brian, you called it autonomy, brings also new risks, obviously, and without strong governance, this agentic AI will go off track. It will deliver inaccurate data. It can be misused or even violate compliance and ethical standards. And those risks only grow with the fact that this agentic AI can act on its own. And this is why oversight, why accountability, and more than ever, assurance are more important for CX leaders and their teams. And this is what agentic AI means for them, and also for us as Cyara to provide them with the right tools to achieve this.
So over the course of this discussion, we're definitely going to dive into how to mitigate some of those risks, how to think about appropriate guardrails, how to redefine governance for a world in which AI is more autonomous. However, I think we'd all be lying if we said those are the only reasons why, AI hasn't totally transformed the customer experience. It's not purely because we're all just afraid of what AI can represent. The reality is that AI just frankly hasn't been good enough for a lot of customers. There's a reason why so many organizations are struggling with getting self-service adoption up. There's a reason why you mentioned the Gartner stat about 80% of issues theoretically being able to be solved in self-service. We have a similar stat that shows the overwhelming majority of contact center leaders expect that by 2030, their agents will only be doing complex issues. There's a reason why pessimism is developing around this, and it's because self-service hasn't been resonating. The trust isn't there. Now, part of it is past bias. The reality is that a chatbot from 10 years ago, an IVR from 20 years ago, probably wasn't what customers were looking for. And that's made them to think that if I want the real resolution, if I want the real support, I might have to speak to a live agent. That bias, overcoming that stigma, that's part of this journey, right? But it's not the only part of this journey. There's also the reality that we look at how these self-service instances are being deployed. When we look at what the actual user experience looks like within these environments, it's not always as effective. And what it leads to is a situation where agentic AI or any talk about AI can feel more like hype than actual help. And what is your background, starting on, what's your thought process on why this is happening? I'll start with you, Christoph, and what we can do to start to move in the right direction here.
Yeah, sure. I was using the word hype before, so happy to come back. I think agentic AI isn't delivering real value yet because many of the projects out there, at least what we see in our client base every day, they are stuck in a prototype stage when we onboard them. The biggest obstacle is somehow, in my view, the lack of robust testing and ongoing monitoring. Without these, agentic AI will stay in the lab instead of making it to production and real world environments. And talking about robust testing, many of the CX projects out there fail because testing doesn't reflect the real world complexity. We're talking about so many different accents out there. You obviously can hear I'm not a native English speaker, so this is already a challenge for many AIs. And edge cases and these unpredictable multi-turn, multi-channel conversations that we see every day. Agentic AI's non-deterministic behavior makes it then even harder to test with these traditional methods that people used in the past. I mean, to be honest, testing legacy contact centers with scripted flows was pretty easy compared to what we are facing right now in this AI era. That's why I'm coming back to you need strong governments, you need continuous real world testing. These things are essential to make agentic AI safe, to make it compliant and effective. If I would be working in marketing, I would say something like test now and thank yourself later. That's how you move away from this hype to really truly reliable and valuable AI. And I'm sure Rishi has also something to add here.
Yeah, no, thank you, Christoph, for sharing that. I think, look, from my perspective, this is, and as I meet with the global brands that we are serving, one theme that keeps coming up to me is about trust, not technology, when it comes to agentic AI. It is the biggest blocker to adopting agentic AI at scale. The technology is advancing fast. We all know about it. I'm not saying something we don't. Look, LLMs, orchestration tools, intent engines, the stack is maturing. Enterprises leaders, though, are asking the question, can we trust these agents to act on behalf of the brand, and can they resolve and adapt and go through that safely? That hesitation is about the model accuracy, is not just, I think I would say, about the model accuracy, but it's more about the complete ownership of it. So today, AI in an enterprise is often siloed by IT, by operations, by digital teams. Even with the customer experience, there are multiple teams. So you can't simply scale agentic AI without a cross-functional alignment, and that is what is critical. And with that comes trust, because these agents touch everything: brand, customer experience, data, security, compliance, misuse, fact checking, et cetera, et cetera. There are plenty of those use cases that needs to be resolved. And by validating those outcomes, not just the steps, but the outcomes, we help those enterprises to then say, hey, yes, the AI agent can speak for us, it's on the behalf, and it can perform. But I think Christoph rightly pointed out, I do agree that governance is also required as companies continue, or enterprises continue to scale.
Yeah, and I think when you think about trust, it really breaks into a few areas, right? There's the trust to represent your brand well, ethically, responsibly, insert similar adjective or adverb there. And I think that ultimately is one of the big concerns, right? We know that this is now the face of our brand. The more autonomous the agentic AI is, the more it needs to be evaluated the same way one of your rock star employees would be evaluated on the front lines. And if you wouldn't trust, or if you're worried about a mistake they might make, this AI is going to be interpreted the same way by a customer. And so if it doesn't represent your brand well, that naturally creates a concern. Other aspects of trust are: one, do we expect to give the best possible resolution? If customers are going to be using a self-service experience guided by AI, they have to know that they're going to get a good outcome. If they feel like the outcome is going to be dramatically inferior to what they would get in another environment, they really have no reason to go all in on using that AI tool, because we all want to get the best coupon. We all want to get the best refund. We all want to get the fastest reshipment. We all want to get the best trip booked, whatever it may be. And if we don't trust this environment to deliver well, that's going to be a problem. And then third, it also has to be an enjoyable and convenient and user-centric experience. And I think, Christoph, you brought up the great point that if we're not testing for the nuances of reality, if we're not testing for, can it really understand individual customers? Can it adapt to different ways they phrase questions, slightly different expectations based on their intent? You're going to run into some problems. And I think those are all challenges that contribute to a lack of trust, a lack of adoption. And unfortunately, we end up talking about this as hype rather than help. But this isn't all negative. It's not all just us saying why agentic AI hasn't lived up to the hype, or why AI hasn't transformed the contact center. There are good examples and good industry use cases and good visuals of what it can look like in a more effective context. And so, I think I want to start there. So, Rishi, if you're able to kind of share any industries or use cases where you do feel like AI agents are making a positive impact.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty. Let me give you like two real world examples that I have seen from an agentic AI that is creating an impact. Like in the insurance world, we're seeing AI agents handle claims end to end, from intake to eligibility checks to even payouts, without the human being in the loop. Now, Cyara serves a lot of telcos as well. And you think about SIM activations or common troubleshooting that are required. They're being automated by AI agents to resolve issues in minutes, no call centers or except no waiting. Now, why are these working? Because they are scoped, they are tested, and they're built with clear operational boundaries. So you know the outcome of it. That's the key, actually. And that's what I believe Christoph was talking about as well when he said about testing. These agents are not just smart, but they're governed. And that's why the governance model is so critical. They are validated before the launch, they are monitored after deployments. And that is what is key. So that's how you turn agentic AI from pilots to prototypes into real ROI driving deployments. Because again, with those things, again, scoping it, testing it, building it with clear operational boundaries.
And I need to build upon of that what Rishi just said. I didn't expect the insurance example. As a coincidence, I had this case last Friday. I need to tell you about that one, Brian. So my girlfriend got a new car Friday afternoon, and you have a new car on Friday afternoon, and you need insurance, and all the insurance offices are of course closed. So what do? You start online to search for an insurance, and we had two options. The two biggest insurances in Vienna. We went through the customer journey on the first one, which was an AI assistant, and was a nice journey till we got to the point where it told us we have collected all your data. It's going now to a human agent who needs to do a risk assessment, meaning check how many accidents my girlfriend had already and make a decision if they can take her as a new customer or not. And her world was breaking down. He has a new car in front of the house and she cannot drive it. So by accident, we tried with the second biggest insurance here in Vienna, and guess what? It was Agentic AI. And the difference was it could do the risk assessment. Yeah, it could make its own decision. And the outcome is the insurance we tried first lost a customer there. Yeah? That's what's happening. And this I think this builds nicely on top of what Rishi said. So, on a more high level, from my point of view, Agentic AI simply means deploying agents that can go beyond following scripts. Yeah, they make real decisions in real world situations. My girlfriend could drive her car on Friday afternoon, and the world was fine again. Now, these agents can adapt on the fly. They handle surprises. They can even change the entire approach, meaning the entire customer journey you are on based on the needs in that moment. Yeah, it's happening a lot that people are overwhelmed with customer journeys. Yeah? And with something scripted, you are stuck there. And yeah, I think agentic AI might even identify in future all these cases where customers are struggling. It might step in and offer help right where it is needed and coordinate behind the scenes to resolve the issue there. All of that without waiting for specific instructions from the user, from the customer. It could escalate tricky cases. It could deliver personalized solutions. And as being said before, even update its own whole strategy of this journey as it learns permanently from its users. And so, in short, it's all about delivering smarter, more responsive customer experiences. This is where the AI truly understands and adapts to customers in real time. This is how I would describe great use of agentic AI. And having that said, I think it's a no-brainer that these things are super hard to test. Yeah? And AI changing its entire strategy in the middle of a customer journey. Yeah? For these kind of things, traditional testing, manual test strategies, this is an impossible manual task to be done. You need the right partner here. And this is again where we from Cyara come into place.
So there's one common theme to both your descriptions, whether it was Rishi's big picture example, Christoph, whether it was your anecdote about getting the insurance for the new car. You talked about the importance of outcomes. And I think the way we need to think about outcomes, we need to define what the right outcome is for this intent. I think too often one of the mistakes we've made with AI deployments is we say, what is an easy outcome that any AI in the world can do, and we make that the standard, when in reality what you're looking for is what does the customer actually want. I think of those situations where, let's say you order food and the AI version of the support process is just, thanks for letting us know that you thought the pizza was cold, we'll do better next time. Really, if I'm going through the process of telling you, hey, here's my problem, here's what didn't go right, I'm expecting a credit, a make good, or at least some sort of apology. And I think if we don't define the right outcome and we automate for a lesser outcome, we don't get the same buy-in. So in your case, the outcome that they were looking for was insurance that worked for the new car, that was easy to obtain, that made sense based on their risk level. We need to build AI. We need to use AI that can deliver that outcome. And once we do that, the customer's not going to be begging to wait on hold to speak to Mary from the sales team or from the customer service team, because they can get what they want on their own. The biggest fallacy we have is we try to create these like half measure outcomes because of our fear of risk, because we associate AI only with simple issues, and we create a situation where the customer doesn't get what they want, and then they don't trust it, they don't buy into it, and we don't see the transformation we're looking for. Now, there are some other trust issues beyond, just outcome quality, right? There's other factors that go into some fear about how autonomous agentic AI should be in practice. Now, we know that right now, 84% of organizations are worried about regulatory and compliance matters. We know that 77% are worried about inaccuracies and hallucinations. And we know that 74% do have fears about how customer data is protected. Now, if we let these fears totally prevent us from doing anything, you're not going to see the customer adoption you're looking for. But if we don't contain these fears and have a risk management strategy in place, you're also going to have catastrophic consequences as well. So I think it's really important to be able to operate AI responsibly so that we're addressing these risks, we're minimizing the potential cost, but we're not using it as an excuse not to make our AI more effective. So I really want to dive deep into that. And so, Christoph, what can we do to distinguish responsible AI from maybe these more risky experimentations that are either not going to work well for the customer or subject our organizations to unnecessary concerns?
Yeah, from my point of view, responsible AI means constant oversight. Yeah? You're checking constantly accuracy. This is not a one-time job, because we all know models drift over time. You are constantly keeping an eye on hallucinations. You are constantly watching out for potential misuse or abuse of your AI, and you're making sure everything stays compliant and ethical. That's what you need to do in this AI era. You are actively testing for stuff like bias and also data handling with care. That's super important. Rishi said before that trust is the main factor when it comes to scaling. I would like to add here. Another layer is also regulation. So I see next to the trust issue, a lot of our clients being stuck in this regulation check. Are we compliant with the European AI Act, for example? And I can tell you as a European citizen, this is 1,000 pages of pure tech. Potentially, we have 10 people in Europe who understand this document. But at the same time, the European Union is expecting all the enterprises here to be fully compliant. So what I'm trying to say is, coming back to the point, you need technology to help you here. You need a tool where you push a button and the outcome is, yes, you are compliant, or no, you are not, and you are not because you are violating it here in ABCD. And no big surprise, this is exactly what we do. So to sum it up, for me, responsible agentic AI, and putting the agentic here in brackets, this is of course also valid for AI in general, is built on trust, it's built on compliance, and those two things come with rigorous testing. Anything less is, from my point of view, just risky experimentation, and in CX, in customer experience, that's a risk you can't take. That's my point of view. What about you, Rishi?
Yeah, no, Christoph, thank you. Yeah, I do agree. I mean, I said trust earlier. Look, I think you've probably heard all by now, Brian and the team, everybody else who are listening into it. Look, out-of-box agents that can handle customer service on day one. But again, you need it modulated, governed, making sure that you're testing it. But beware of those zero effort promises. there is no such thing as plug and play AI agents that delivers real outcomes without any real oversight. So that oversight is that testing, that monitoring that you need on top of it. What matters though is what separates an enterprise grade deployments from shiny demos is how the things that one needs to think about. How is the data governed? Number one. Number two, what are the restraining or retraining cadence that is required for the bot to continue to progress effectively? What is the fallback logic when the agent fails? How do you scale agentic AI without the questions being answered and operationalized? The insurance scenario that Christoph was talking about on Friday, when his girlfriend had brought a car, and how did he get that? That real autonomy requires real oversight. And that's what is critical to test those edge cases, simulating those backgrounds, ensuring fallback paths aren't just afterthoughts. They're engineered from day one. And I think that's what is critical. So that's what I would say in addition to what Christoph said, Brian.
Yeah, and I think mapping out that need for oversight is an often overlooked workforce management challenge as well. We always talk about, things like AI for simple issues, agents for complex ones, or agents are going to work in more of a custodial or collaborative role with AI. And these sound great because it means the contact center leader gets to go into a room and say, hey, not many of you are going to lose your jobs. You don't have to worry about AI. That's like a really reassuring thing. But we often don't really challenge ourselves to say, what does that role look like? And I think the more we can understand, okay, here is what AI will do autonomously. Here's where oversight is needed. And here are going to be the skills, the personalities, the backgrounds that are needed among our human employees to provide that oversight. And then it's going to be great at developing the right training, hiring the right people, compensating correctly, really determining what the future of human work will look like. So that's a great consideration. But I think more broadly, what I find interesting is that, everything you said makes perfect sense as far as what are the right agentic AI deployment will look like, what are the key considerations. But let's also be real for a second. We know that a lot of vendors out there are going to say that anyway. They're going to either watch this webinar or just like know what they need to say, and they're going to put it in their marketing copy. They're going to put it in their sales pitch, and it's not going to deliver. I see this a lot, especially with industry specificity. I work with a lot of people on the finance side. I know we have some finance listeners for this webinar as well. And they're the huge target for any contact center technology, right? Because they are high stakes, they have big budgets, they manage a lot of interactions. They're like the prime candidate for, if I'm developing contact center technology, I want to work with the finance space. And yet I hear time and time again from the market that when they actually meet with some of these vendors, when they hear the pitch, they're like, they know nothing about finance. They know nothing about the requirements, the compliance, the needs. They know how to like design a cool interface, but they don't know what it really is required to thrive in my industry. And so I think that actually separating fact from fiction, hype from hope, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to navigating the vendor landscape is a real challenge, because every vendor wants to make all these promises and say the right things, but not deliver. So from your perspective, you guys evaluate the technology landscape, you get people thinking about this technology more critically. What are some of those critical questions, those critical evaluation points that organizations want to have as they navigate the vendor market right now?
Yeah, very good question, Brian. I think that's and very well put, by the way. I think from a finance perspective, look, Cyara serves the who's who of the world globally on the finance space as well. In that vertical, we also serve healthcare. We also serve other verticals, the high tech also being part of that now. Here is what I suggest to people when and I honestly, I work with all these enterprise clients. I mean, Christoph mentioned that 10,000 pages of EU, European Union's Act. There are about 100 to 110 laws similarly that are passed in the United States from an AI perspective. Are you aware of it? What is that you're doing about it? So look, I think I put down to and which is that vendor that can actually help you be secure. So the first thing we have to talk about, I think, as a vendor, if you're selecting, is the three questions that comes to my mind. Like, look, how is AI trained, and on what data? Because it's the data input that actually matters. If the vendor can't explain those data sources and how often the model is updated, that's a red flag. Simple and full stop. I mean, there's nothing to it. Real world relevance depends on fresh representative data. Second, Can the AI explain that reasoning, especially in a regulated industries like finance? Explainability isn't just a nice to have, it's a must have. You need to trust the output, the outcome and it starts with transparency. So again, the data, being transparent on that reasoning. Number two. Number third, then I feel is, look, don't fall for polished demos. Look, we do our demos as well from Cyara's perspective. But I implore all my enterprise customers, prospects as well, ask real world customer examples to us, not just curated flows. Great AI should prove or itself in a messy, dynamic, live environments, not just what is there as a branded demo that one needs to do. So once you start looking at it more from an authenticity perspective and pragmatic perspective to your industry needs, be it finance or any other vertical, and in those three areas, you should be able to get the right vendor for your choice.
If I may add here, I would say I'm very much in sync with you, Rishi. Not to say I'm stealing your ideas, but I would also ask, real practical questions, especially around data privacy and transparency. To name it, start simple with where's my data stored, who can access it, are you using it to train your models, and how is privacy protected in general. A lot of these vendors that are, let's say, doing a bit of AI washing are already struggling with these questions. And if you get good answers there, I would start to dig deeper. And I'm of course biased from where I come from, so I would ask next, hey, how do you test your systems? Yeah? How do you handle real world complexity? Can you show us some audit trails? Explain the decision making, the chain of thought. Again, stealing a bit, borrowing from you, Rishi, and your thoughts. How can these vendors prove that they have solid fail safes in place? Yeah? Also, there, I would ask, hey guys, what are your hallucination rates? Yeah? How confident are the answers your systems are providing? What's the prediction confidence there? How smoothly does it hand off to a human agent in case that is needed? So these are the kind of questions I would ask. And at the end of the day, again, I'm in sync with Rishi. I would say don't be fooled by these shiny demos or buzzwords that are everywhere. Look for real proof that the agentic AI actually builds trust, improves the outcomes, and also meets compliance needs. And all these questions together will then quickly show you or identify who is offering real innovation and who is just trying to write this AI wave.
So earlier we talked about how you want to be aware of anyone who just says it's going to be a plug and play, set it and forget it situation. But the truth is, even if you find the world's best vendor who does deliver, who has the right models, the right training, gives you the right advice, it's still never plug and play, right? There's still a lot that has to happen internally to even make the strongest, most effective technology function in the real world. So what are some of the internal realities, the internal frameworks, the internal requirements that are needed to actually make the most of a well thought out, well implemented solution that you may pursue? Rishi, let's start with you there.
Yeah, no, great question, Brian. Look, I think Christoph touched upon it a little bit on the governance piece to it. So let me expand on that. Let's talk about what really drives agentic AI and where most companies still stumble. It's not tech; it's the teamwork part of it. Deploying autonomous AI agent isn't just an IT project. It demands, in fact, cross-functional buy-in from your customer support teams, from your customer success teams, from IT, from compliance, from legal, finance as well. And that alignment doesn't happen. CX launches or lags or it fails. I mean, legal blocks and rollouts can happen. Monitoring is sometimes reactive, not proactive. So again, what we need is to launch what is a governing council in a company to make AI investments more viable, scalable. Again, you need those shared KPIs. I mean, the governance models will be able to explain that. And more critically, there's a continuous testing and monitoring framework of those agents. because the true power of agentic AI is not about removing humans, it's about elevating them. With the self-service becomes more smarter and more empathetic. Brian, you mentioned earlier that the contact center agents or the support help desk will be able to resolve more complex items. So that's what I'm talking about, not removing, but elevating them. And they're not stuck resetting passwords or escalating errors. They're handling the moments that truly matter for their end customer. So that's what I feel. I don't know, Christoph, I think I've sort of stolen something from you on your governance, but over to you if you have any thoughts to share.
Yeah, very basically, I would start with what's true for every software or IT project. Start small, start smart. Don't try to automate everything in the most complex case on day one. Focus on these areas where you will see real impact and for both your business and your customers, and then build your wins one after the other. But I would say this is true literally for all projects, not only Agentic AI. And then next, I'm already back with, Agentic AI needs constant monitoring, constant testing, constant fine tuning to survive out there in the real world. And for this, you need the right partner, and we have your back there. And at the end of the day, agentic AI is a big hype, but at the end of the day, it's software, and software needs to be tested. If I only would get $1 for every time I said this sentence, I would be super rich. But people expect it's so cool, it's so fancy. Well, at the end of the day, it's software, yeah? And no one who would build an, I don't know, internal CRM or whatever from scratch would forget about testing. But on the other side, the same enterprises are putting agentic AI in front of sometimes millions of customers they have, and it's completely untested. So this is, of course, an extremely high risk. And yeah, what you shouldn't forget, also your team needs to be ready for agentic AI, meaning the people in the back driving this technology. This is a new way of working. You need more collaboration. There is more ongoing change with this technology. And as said, always test these solutions and do it from the customer perspective, end to end, with all these edge cases, with this infinitely large amount of permutations and so on. And I think that's what you need to do this ultimate move to agentic AI and get away from the hype and end up with real world results.
So we're right at the end of time, but it wouldn't be a webinar if we didn't end with some final takeaways or action steps. And in this case, we've talked about the upsides, we've talked about the risks, we've talked about the needs of agentic AI. I want to close by giving each of you a chance to walk through some recommendations, some advice for the leaders we have on this webinar as they navigate the agentic AI market and they try to take action, they try to transform. What needs to be top of mind for them?
I'll probably go first. So my advice is definitely something like, and again, I'm an engineer, yeah, so I would tell everyone, hey, be excited. This technology is amazing, and it is transforming the entire customer experience space. There's no question mark, around this. Agentic AI will drive customer experiences in future. We could discuss about the time frame, but the future of CX is definitely AI driven. But, and unfortunately there is again a but, you have got to go with the right approach and with the right level of risk management. This isn't just a new tool. Agentic AI is big, it's huge, I would say it's a strategic shift for your entire organization. And therefore, as you're asking for my advice, I would go with 3 hints. First of all, start now, because waiting will only leave you behind. Rishi already touched based on this. AI in general and also agentic AI won't kill your jobs, but your competitor who is already leveraging it might probably kill your jobs business. My second hint is probably something like manage risk at every step with strong testing, with good governance, and continuous monitoring. I'm, by the way, telling my team when we are building these assurance solutions for AI, I'm telling them constantly something like trust is the main currency when it comes to AI-driven customer engagements or customer journeys. So build trustworthy AI. And yeah, therefore, and this is my last hint, you need to constantly keep an eye on accuracy, on the compliance, on ethics. All these things are absolutely non-negotiable when it comes to this AI-driven customer experiences. That would be my takeaway. And Rishi, you bring us home.
All right. No, thank you. I mean, those are really good three key items that you said. So I actually agree with that. I think, look, I think agentic AI is not a shortcut. In my view, it's a strategy. It's a strategic item that one needs to think about. It's not about some quick wins and flashy demos. This is about building systems that can act independently and, more importantly, responsibly in the real world with real customers. So the winners in this space are not necessarily who are going to be moving the fastest, but those who integrate thoughtfully and test relentlessly. And I think, again, that's where I'm so proud to be part of this journey with Cyara. We're leaning in hard to agentic AI. We just released our our platform actually with large 6 innovations with it. We're building that assurance layer, agnostic again to for any of the enterprises to any of the contact center and the tools underneath it. We will scale and have the confidence behind it. So because if you can test it, you can trust it. And to me, as I said before, it's the trust that matters. And once you have it, you can scale it as well. So this is not just in theory, this is actually in production. We are having a lot of enterprise Fortune 1000 companies that are adapting it. We would love to hear from others as well. And Brian, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our thoughts and more importantly, very thoughtful questions from you. So thank you so much.
Appreciate it. And thanks so much to both of you for speaking and sharing your insights, your practical guidance, your realistic take on where agentic AI is and where it can go. And of course, Cyara, for your commitment to making it not just a pipe dream, but a reality for organizations and understanding what that reality entails. Because if we summarize the main points here, we want to know what agentic AI is going to mean for customers, not only in terms of resolution quality, but also what they're experiencing when they're interacting with an autonomous AI agent. You want to know what it's going to mean for your teams, right? As the workflow changes, how are their responsibilities going to evolve? How are they going to have more expectations from customers? How are they going to be measured differently? You need to understand that. And finally, you need to know what it means for your business. We're entrusting AI to operate on the front lines on its own. That can either be a great win for your business in terms of scalability and performance, but it can also be a source of huge risk. And understanding the right way to do this, testing, thoughtful implementation, thoughtful design, listening to customers and employees, these are all the concepts that get you there. That are going to ensure that agentic AI is not, in fact, hope, but instead a source of help for your customers, for your teams, for your business, and for the entire customer contact community. On behalf of CCW Digital, on behalf of Cyara, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your excitement about the topic, and we can't wait to talk to you next time.